Awesome. So I would like to welcome everyone here for the 10th anniversary of the Drupal Camp Asheville again, and to the speaking sessions where now we have the lovely Amy June Hanline speaking to us on the topic of how to turn your passion into a Drupal community project. It's definitely a very interesting project, and I would definitely let Amy June speak a lot more detail into the topic. But before we get into the session, I would just like to cover a few things here. I would like to set a reminder for the code of conduct that Drupal Camp Asheville is dedicated to a safe, inclusive, welcoming, and a harassment-free and event experience for everyone. If you feel like witnessed or experienced a harassment at the Drupal Camp Asheville, please feel free to notify one of the COC contacts mentioned in the reception of the camp here at Hopin or at our website in Drupal Camp Asheville. All right. I think, and one more thing is that if you have any questions and answers, please feel free to post it in the Q&A section or in the chat, and I'll make sure to collate everything, and we could talk soon as the presentation or the speaking is over from Amy June, and I'm sure Amy June would be very happy to respond to most of those. Over to you, Amy June. Please walk us through the session.
Thank you, Vivek. You are at Idea to Action, how to turn your passion into a Drupal community project. A little bit of housekeeping is there's two links in the chat. One is to a bit.ly link that takes you to a slide deck that's very similar to this one. I gave this session or an iteration of it for the Drupal Association last month. And there's a lot of helpful links at the bottom of the slides if you want to follow along. It's not quite the same because I've added to it like we do with most of our presentations. We sort of mix it up a little bit. And then for those of you that need or want transcriptions, there's a link to a Thyssen transcript. So there's live AI captionings happening. They're not perfect, but sometimes if you need to go back, get some information or something, you know, transcripts are really handy. Another bit of housekeeping is there are some images in this slide deck. Most of them are decorative, but if they have and hold any content that's really relevant and important, I'll describe the images. But for the most part, images are just there for decoration. Like Vivek said, my name is Amy June, capital A, capital J, all one word, pushed together, Amy June Heinlein. I use the pronouns she and her. I am the open source community ambassador at Canopy Studios. I am a hospice nurse by trade. I am a mentor for open source contributions, both in the WordPress and Drupal spheres. In WordPress, I help lead speaker diversity workshops, so we have more diverse speakers being empowered to give presentations, you know, at the local, regional, and national level. I help Carrie Fisher and Donna Bungard and a few others who are at camp this week with Ally Talks. That's A11Y Talks, accessibility talks. That's where we get on line once a month and talk about all things accessibility. And that comes from my hospice nurse background, making sure that everyone can access everyone's products and digital assets. And coming from that nursing background is important for my contribution journey as well, because I'm not technical by nature. I came into Drupal in my late 30s. I'm a Luddite by heart, but I love contributing back. And so a lot of the things I do for the community are about reducing the barriers to entry for those contributions that are beyond code. So today we're going to look at how to create a project with something that you're passionate about that isn't a coding project. Canopy brings me here today. We build websites and digital assets. We specialize in data-driven intelligent solutions. We design, build, and support websites for clients who want to make a positive impact. And we're hiring. We do half WordPress, half Drupal, half support, half builds. We're looking for WordPress engineers and tech leads, Drupal tech leads and developers. Project management, we're looking for account management, we're looking for accessibility consultants, we're looking for designers. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or want to know more about Canopy. Okay, so more importantly, what are we going to talk about today? First, we're going to talk about why we contribute, specifically to Drupal, the benefits of contributions, and then we'll talk about some community projects, and we're going to divide them in half a little bit. First, we'll go into Drupal initiatives, and then we'll talk about passion projects that people have been doing in the community for years, and now they have a community project behind it. Along with having a project in the Drupal world, having a project on Drupal.org, is attributions and credits. And so I want to walk through what that means and how you can give people credits for helping out. And then we'll do a demo. Basically, we'll create a community project, and then we'll walk through creating an issue and giving attributions. So why contribute? We often hear a lot of talks start with, come for the software and stay for the community. But bottom line is, if you depend on open source, then open source depends on you. We all need to work together to move our projects forward. Developers, programmers, engineers, designers, user experience, we all use the software in different ways. We all experience bugs that someone else may not have found. So to keep open source, a viable project, it takes input and collaboration from everybody. Your contributions are valued. Again, not everyone who uses Drupal or approaches the community in that same level of engagement, and that's perfect. Everyone's unique perspective is important when building community projects and products. You get what you give, and then some. It gives you a chance to practice your skills, not only with code, but in leadership and management, your soft skills as well. Also, Drupal provides incentives through the attribution process, and these incentives can really drive more contributions. I always tease on my first-time contributors that once they get that first contribution credit, it's all kind of downhill from there because you keep wanting to get another one. And this is my most important or my most favorite reason for giving back, is contributing makes you feel like a more integrated part of the Drupal community. Now there's another reason to go to camps and conferences and stay longer, those contribution days and code sprints, lots of times people will leave before that happens, but once you start contributing, those days are really a lot of fun. You meet people with similar interests, you build relationships and friendships, and those networks can really last your whole Drupal career. Okay, so that's why we should give back. But say you work for an agency, an organization, why should they give back? Why should they sponsor your contributions? Because we may know that giving back is a privilege that some folks don't have, and that privilege is the privilege of time. So companies, this is Canopy, this is who I work for. So I'm just using their marketplace logo on this slide. Companies who are consuming Drupal really do need to give back. They should see the value and appreciate helping each other because it helps with duplicating effort and redundancy. In the tech industry, using and contributing to open source software is often seen as good corporate citizenship. And it's really a part of a firm's social responsibility. It goes back to that first one. If you depend on open source depends on you. And then there's another aspect that's pretty valuable for companies is for talent recruitment. It's fun. It's rewarding to work with the smartest people in Drupal. And when your team helps in the wider community, it really helps with that employee retention. You know, simply put, the more you give, the more you get back. And this is reflected when potential employees and partners view your agency profiles. And we'll look at this during the demo as well. So community projects. First, we'll look at those Drupal incentives, you know, community projects. And these are some projects I like that I work with. Some of them I don't, but these are how you can get started in Drupal without creating your own project. Maybe these projects, these next few projects, are actively seeking contributors and collaborators. So there's the Promote Drupal project. This has one main goal: to create business marketing materials targeted to decision makers who choose to adopt Drupal for their businesses. So this is your promotion, your marketing. And this, they could use all different sorts of help. They have a space in Drupal Slack, you know, #promote Drupal. They meet in Zoom every 4 weeks on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. UTC, and then every 4 weeks on Thursday at 5 p.m. UTC. And a couple of the things that they're looking for is, you know, DrupalCon marketing and outreach committee members, 20th birthday committee members, Drupal ambassador committee. You know, the goal is to spread the word about Drupal events and communities outside the Drupal universe, and focusing on attracting new talent. There's the Strategic Initiative Marketing Committee, and their goal is to spread the word about the innovation, Drupal's innovation, and highlight the work of the strategic initiatives, you know, that we usually hear about on our contribution days. You know, your easy out of the box initiative, your bug smash, your D10 readiness. So those are Strategic Initiative Marketing Committee. And then they're looking for evaluating marketing committee folks as well. Their mission is to improve Drupal's onboarding experience for evaluators. So all different sorts of things that you can do when you promote Drupal. The mentoring group is always looking for new folks. This is near and dear to my heart because my favorite thing to do in Drupal is to teach other people how to teach other people how to use Drupal or how to contribute. And the Drupal mentoring team is a group that supports mentors on a daily basis. You know, we organize follow-up activities. We help the Drupal Association manage mentoring in the community. We work with others on shared projects. You know, that means that we'll be explaining things to folks as well as asking others for help. You know, the act of learning and teaching can be a fulfilling activity for everyone involved. And we meet in the mentoring space in Drupal Slack, and we have monthly meetings that meet Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And that's going to be changing up in a little bit, but I'm going to mention a lot of channels, and most of these are in that Drupal Slack. So just kind of check them out and join them and lurk. But there's all different roles with mentoring. Sometimes people have the fear that they don't know enough to teach people, but you always know something more than someone else. And the idea of mentoring is not teaching people everything you know, it's teaching people how to use the resources to figure out things as well. So we have discovered Drupal mentors, community tooling leads, you know, people who work on community tooling and helping people get local environments up on their machines. First-time contributor workshop folks. We need people who do issue triage before DrupalCon sprints, not only with novice issues, but larger issues as well. We have mentored contributions events where we're always looking for mentors to help with mentoring tables. We need people to lead the booths. We need people to communicate, help us get the word out, you know, work with that Promote Drupal team. And then we're always in a need for documentation, because one of the things about being, you know, a mentor and a lead is providing documentation so the next people don't have to figure things out as they go. Kevin, he's in Asheville. I don't know if he's at camp today or not, but he basically runs the Drupal Recording Initiative. He is always welcome. He's always welcoming help. This initiative is to make the recording of Drupal and related talks at camps and summits easy, turnkey, affordable, and available. Kevin is not the only person recording sessions, but he's definitely the loudest and most prolific and the best point of contact for this. Again, lots of different things. You can find him on Kevin Thule in Drupal Slack. He does have a Drupal project. So if you go to Drupal Slack project DRI for Drupal Recording Initiative. Training and mentoring, improving camp support and ongoing improvement. He's definitely looking to expand coverage, shipping kits covering more than just North America too. Again, documentation, moving docs into GitHub and adding visuals, to make the learning process easier. Looking for a way to streamline funding. This is an expensive endeavor, and collecting funds to help pay for all of that is a valuable resource. And then better organization, better tools, and you would love collaboration, especially when it comes to content discoverability, people to help him put the tags up on YouTube, help with captioning and curation. We don't want the same talk in 16 different spaces. So reach out to Kevin Thule for the Drupal Recording Initiative. There's the Drupal Diversity and Inclusion Group. They welcome all types of contributors, programmers, content managers, project support staff. However you identify as a contributor and as a part of the Drupal community, there's a place for you to get involved with this program. They have a few Slack channels, typically they start out with DDI. So their main channel is diversity dash inclusion in Drupal Slack, and they meet every 2 weeks on Thursday. And there's a couple things I just want to highlight. They have the Drupal Diversity Speaker Initiative. Would you be interested in attending a speaker training, that focuses on helping people from marginalized or historically excluded groups overcome imposter syndrome and get ready to speak in public? They're looking for people to help with leading speaker initiative trainings. They also have a camp coming up. So if you're interested in what you can do and having more discussions, in real time, there's a diversity and inclusion camp, I believe the second weekend in August, but you can join that Slack channel and find out more information. There's the events organizers working group. I contribute a lot to Drupal outside of code. And one of the ways I do that is through helping with events. I help organize Drupal Camp Asheville. I help organize BAD Camp, Bay Area Drupal Camp. I help put together trainings in New York City. You don't always have to have a lead role to help out with a camp. And there's an events organizers working group, and it's really about supporting community-led events within the Drupal community. It supports community-led teams to grow Drupal through those local events. So there's meetups. The meetup is your informal gathering of people interested in Drupal, and it's usually really geared toward building local knowledge in the community. And then there's the camp, sort of that next step up. It's a 1 or 2 day event that focuses on Drupal and brings together people from a geographical region. It's usually an extension of that meetup. Like we run the San Francisco Drupal Users Group, it meets once a month. And then we have Bay Area Drupal Camp, BAD Camp, that meets once a year, and we pull in all of the Bay Area. And then of course there's DrupalCon, it's that global or continent level gathering, which goes for several days or a week, and they have trainings, keynotes, summits, sessions, all kinds of things. DrupalCons are typically organized by professionals, professional event planners in conjunction with the Drupal Association, but there's many different ways that you can volunteer there. So when we look at what we can do on an event organizer or volunteer level, there's all different sorts of things. There's a website, there's marketing your event through newsletters and social media, curating content, putting together trainings and sessions and contributions, financing, community building, social events, putting together assets for swag or print, helping with audio visual, how are people going to see what's going on? Is it going to be a hybrid event? Accessibility, not only digital accessibility, but also venue accessibility as well. Making sure that everyone feels included, so getting together and talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And then, of course, code of conduct as well. Now, this organized group, the event organizer working group, has their own Slack space outside of the Drupal Slack space, and they meet every second Tuesday of the month. If this is something you're passionate about, maybe you help volunteer right now or looking to participate a little bit more, or you have a community that doesn't have a Drupal community yet, you can reach out to me or any of the event organizers, and we can hook you up in that Slack channel, and you can lurk and just kind of feel things out, come to a couple meetings, and we can get you going. There's the community working group. The mission of the community working group, it says on the slide, so I'll just read it, is to foster a friendly and welcoming community for the Drupal project and uphold the Drupal code of conduct. And we are actively looking for folks. There's a few different teams. Sometimes people, when they think of the community working group, they think of the conflict resolution team. And that's one important part of the team. The conflict resolution team acts as a group to maintain documentation and processes focused on the health of the community. And that kind of goes down into the community health team as well. And the community health team is broken down into several different things. We have community health, we have event support, we have ambassadors, and we have subject matter experts. And the CWG is actively recruiting folks. We're looking for folks for the conflict resolution team. And so one way to get onboarded is to join the community health team and sort of work with us in that, and then, move into the conflict resolution. And they have office hours quarterly. We've only done them once, but we're going to be doing them again soon. And we have a space like many of these other groups in Drupal Slack, and it's community-health. Content moderation, there's all different things that you can do on Drupal.org. That's not code. You can be a site moderator. You can moderate content. You can moderate documentation. But for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to go into this. If you have any questions about non-code contributions in the issue queues, reach out to me. There is a Slack channel, Drupal.org, with no hyphens and no space. But content is really, looking at book listings, case studies, front page promotion, organizational profiles, Drupal Planet, kind of helping curate content. There's a lot of the people that want to get up on Drupal.org, but we need to moderate that content before it goes up there. So it's a great way to give back if you're not a coder. For more ideas, there's an issue queue, actually. I don't have the link for some reason, which is weird, but I think it's like Drupal/project/ideas. There's all kinds of ideas in that queue. If you have an idea and want to see if people are excited about that idea too, this is a great place to look and start a conversation. I always like to say that Olivero, our new default theme for Drupal 9 and 10, that started out as an idea in this idea queue. So whatever your idea is, don't be hesitant about talking about it, opening an issue, and having that community discussion. So now I want to look at these more community projects where people were passionate about things and thought, how can I work this into a community project? Talking Drupal, it's a weekly podcast where our friends, talk about Drupal and web development. Whether they have an episode once a week, they're now on episode 310 or something like that. But they've opened a community project for Talking Drupal where they invite guests on, and they have conversations among the hosts and things like that. Ally Talks, this is a project that we put on Drupal.org. Again, A11Y Talks stands for Accessibility Talks. We're really dedicated to promoting the discussions about accessibility. We invite speakers on. It takes a lot to run these monthly meetups. And so we thought it would be fair for our volunteers who help us out to make a community project and then give them attributions. The Contrib half hour, the Media Current Contrib half hour with Damien McKenna, they started as sort of a support group for the Drupal community, and now they meet every week for half an hour and discuss different topics. And meetings are open to anyone who wishes to join. Fantastic place to network, fantastic place to get a question answered about contribution. When I gave this presentation for the Drupal Association last month, we created this project online as our example, DevQuest podcast. It's a podcast about career journey of the modern web developer, and Lando or Tandem curates this every month. You know, it's a project where they have someone comes on and talks about how they got into Drupal, where their journey is taking them, and maybe where it's taking them now. You know, so we made this a community project. Okay, so we made a community project. Now what? You know, one of the reasons for opening that community project is to give credit, you know, giving attributions, you know, and I want to talk about this a little bit before we move into the process of making a project. Of course, when we do attributions and credits for code issues, so we'll talk about these first, we want to assume good intentions for each contributor. You know, all of us start as beginners, and we know that there's always a learning process, you know. So the following are examples of types of contributions that could be recognized. Creating a well-written issue that describes a problem, proposing a solution, you know, either in the form of a patch or a text comment, reviewing a patch or testing that patch or merge request, however that project is set up, adding screenshots of the problem, or maybe adding screenshots of the solution as well, and then of course adding documentation. And as far as attributions go, remembering that it is a manual process, it doesn't guarantee to happen flawlessly. So give our volunteers and maintainers a little grace and assume positive motivations. You know, like you might have contributed a patch, but maybe you didn't get credited and you want a credit. You know, be nice, you know, make an issue or make a comment in the queue that you did the work, and people, like I said, have best intentions in mind when they're attributing. And then those are for code projects. So what kind of attributions and credits can we give for our community projects? Most importantly, you need to really define your expectations and define your methodology behind giving those attributions. Define what it takes to actively participate in your project. So some good examples are, you know, people who organize an event for the project, people who help with the promotional aspect of your project, who's creating slides and Twitter decks and social media, who's managing the project. You know, managing a community project is no less work than managing a client project. Volunteers, you know, for Drupal Camp Asheville, we make sure that our volunteers get a credit for every session that they moderate, or the day that they moderate. You know, we attribute our speakers for speaking. And then, like for some of these community projects, documentation is super important, because one of those things about leadership is being able to gracefully step down. And to gracefully step down, you need documentation on what you do day to day. That way someone can step in and be able to run the project. It's always good to create redundancy in your projects. It helps alleviate burnout. So with that, we're going to go into a demo. So I am going to shift and look at my other screen, make sure everything shows up. Yep. So this is my Drupal.org page. And the reason I show this is because there's a few different things that come up. One being, when you work on a project, you get an attribution for it, you know? So this is something that you can use as a job resume. But another thing this is a diving board for me of I have an hour of community work to do. What am I going to work on today? So there's some tabs up here that are pretty handy, and I might have a few extra tabs that you don't see, but that's okay. So up here I have this Your Projects. So if I select this tab, it takes me to a listing of all the project issue queues that I help maintain. And there's a lot of them, and a lot of them I just help support. You can see that, I've created, accessibility talks. There's that DevQuest podcast that we had opened up last time. But what I want to show is down here at the end, there's an add new project button. So we're going to use that in a second. But what I want to do is I want to look at 2 community projects that are really well built and kind of use these as example as we build out a new community project. So here's Bay Area Drupal Camp. You can see, this project page looks very similar to the project page for code repository. You have a good example, or a good piece of content, lots of information about what your project is. You have an image up there, this being the logo of Bad Camp. You can see we have an issue queue. It might not be code, but we do have issues, So if we go to those issue queues, we've created an issue queue. And remember, this is a non-code project. This is a camp project. You can see we break it down into meta tickets for design, website, training, session, volunteers, logistics, sponsorships. This helps us organize it, because we don't use project management software. So we use the Drupal issue queue as our ticketing queue. And then another project I want to show is Ally Talks. Oh, we don't have an image. We can change that. But, again, it talks a little bit about what the project is. We've created an issue queue, and this issue queue is active right now. You can see that we have a meta ticket for September. So we have a meta ticket for September, and then we've broken down the September tasks a little bit too. Or maybe we haven't. Let's look at July. So July, we have 1 ticket, which is our ticket explaining the crux of the July event. And then we broke it down into video and post-production, event posting, and marketing, because there's different things that happen in this. So that's sort of an example of an issue queue for a community project. So if we go back to my page and I select this add new project link, it takes me to drupal.org/project/add. And this page talks about a few of the different projects that you can add. There's a general project for themes and that aren't modules and things like that. There's modules, there's themes. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a community project. So we're going to select that tab. And the community project I picked was the Drupal Coffee Exchange. We've been doing it for years. And the reason I picked it for Drupal Camp Asheville was because one year, Michael Herschel brought a brick of decaf Folgers, and this now travels from camp to camp. So I thought it would be really fun to kind of like tie our roots and do a demo for this project. So the Drupal Coffee Exchange, we get together quarterly and we exchange coffee through the mail. At events, if any of us are going, we organize networking events. What does this have to do with Drupal? Well, it gets people together. It gets people together who love coffee, but it gets people together who might not work on the same projects together. And that's an important aspect of Drupal too, is the networking. And it's quite a project to put together one of these exchanges from month to month. Do we do it every month? No. Are we going to attribute everyone who participates? No. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a project for the person who puts together the exchange and then puts together the birds of a feathers at events. Like I said, not a code project, not a camp, but a community project that really helps with networking. So we're going to call this the Drupal Coffee Exchange. Simple, not a lot of words. We all know what it means. This is going to be a full project. Our short name will be Drupal, the machine name. So Drupal Coffee Exchange. We're going to choose an image. Let's see if I have one on my site. So if I go to projects, Drupal Coffee Exchange, I have some logos here. We'll do this one. Hit upload. I'm going to say Drupal Coffee Exchange logo. We're going to say actively maintained. We're under active development. As you work through your projects and they become antiquated or you don't work on them, please come back and change this metadata. Our description for brevity, I already have that written out. A supporting organization would be Canopy because they help me. We're going to do issue queue management. And here's issues. Now, this isn't a code project, so you're welcome to change this to anything you want. So I think for this project, we're going to use quarterly exchange, documentation, and miscellaneous. And then I'm going to hit save and see if I left off any required fields. Nope. So here we are. We created a community project on Drupal.org. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now what I want to do is I'm going to hit the edit button and I'm going to add a maintainer to the project because I'm not the only one who works on this and I want someone else to be able to help me manage it. So up here at the top, I can hit maintainers. I'm going to put Nerds theme. I'm going to give him permission to do absolutely everything. And this would change, say, if you had code or something like this. And this will send him an email saying that he's now an owner of this community project. So that's it. That is it in a nutshell. We created a community project. We looked at some issues. Maybe what we'll do is we'll look at these meta issues a little bit more. I think San Francisco Drupal Users Group is another good example. Here I have here's our August event, and then we have it broken down into the same thing like the Ally Talks does. If we go to the meta ticket, because of the way I've set up the other tickets, they're listed as child issues. So again, much like a project management board, you can manage your tickets through the issue queue. So I'll take questions. And I talked to Rachel about this a little bit, and sometimes people think they need permission to open one of these projects on Drupal.org, but you don't, But if you think you need permission, reach out to me or Rachel and we'll give you permission. Like I said, the idea behind the Drupal Coffee Exchange being a project is because it's networking and because the people we meet in real life help us do things later on. We all know, it takes a whole community. And like I said, coffee is just one of those things, those ways that you can meet people. Oh, April has a question. Is there an easy way to remove the security warnings on a community project that has no code? No, but it is being talked about because if there is no code, the code thing, like, I don't know if you noticed, but any community, any project, even the code projects we have on Drupal.org, a lot of them have that security advisory right now because, and this is a good question, April, which leads to more activities that people can get involved with, is there is a lack of people doing those security reviews, so we need more folks to do those security reviews. I don't know if it's an open issue on Drupal.org, but we can open that next week and see if that's something. Neil Drum works with all of that, so that might be a lower priority for him, but that's a good question, April. What she's talking about is when I go to the Drupal users group page, there's a advisory here saying it's not covered under Drupal security, meaning my code hasn't been reviewed, but there's no code in this project, so maybe that shouldn't be there. Good catch. Any other questions? The only way April knows to have it removed is to know someone. True. Okay. Vivek, do you want to come back on and tell people what's next at camp?
Sure. And thank you so much, Imogen, for a great topic. And I think it's very important to involve, people other than just coders, or or what is probably presumed as being a technical community, and it really doesn't have to be. And yeah.
And that's true. That's one of the reasons I like mentoring so much, is because I'm not technical, but I give back to Drupal all the time. And I really find it empowering, like for our human resource peoples and our sales people and our project managers, to know that you can give back, like through documentation, or you can kind of get into code, but like user interface stuff. You can test accessibility. You can do all of these things, That's how I first got started. And then realizing that helping with camps and all of those kind of networking events, if we don't have those events, we don't have new people. So it's like the cyclical thing, So that's important too, is making sure our software is advertised, making sure that we have new users coming in, making sure that we have all of our different perspectives, but really that empowerment of those people who historically have felt excluded from contributing back to Drupal.
And being a developer myself, and I have to agree this, that there are a lot of non-technical aspects that makes software development more progressive. And I think I really appreciate the thought behind having such topics come up to make this community a more progressive community, to bring such aspects. And thank you for bringing this up as a session, for hosting this. And thanks to everyone who has participated here. I would feel free to reach out to Imogen if you would like to connect, to know how you can be part of the community too.